Exposed. How my sister's betrayal led to my incredible success, what my family never expected. In a small Midwestern town, where the warm aroma of freshly brewed coffee and the comforting hum of chatter fills the local diner, betrayal is the last thing anyone expects. Sarah, a 28-year-old waitress with dreams of baking, never thought her sister, her closest ally, would turn against her. Yet heartbreak left her gasping for air, and hope flickered like a candle in the wind. At the diner, familiar faces became Sarah's sanctuary, and the clinks of silverware danced to the rhythm of shared stories. Every morning she carried Granny South's cherished recipes close to her heart, yearning to open a bakery of her own, a sweet tribute to the woman who taught her the magic of baking. But the town was struggling and every penny mattered. Dreams felt miles away, their weight heavy on her shoulders. Then came the storm. Just when Sarah believed she was gaining momentum, a careless miscommunication between her and Emily exploded like a thundercloud overhead. What was supposed to be a confidential conversation turned into whispers that swept through the diner and the town, twisting Sarah's words into weapons that wounded her reputation. Friends glanced sideways, politicians and parents murmured in hushed tones, and warmth turned cold as Emily's jealousy and fear of being overshadowed blurred the bond once so strong. "Did you hear what Sarah said?" The words struck like lightning, sparking the fire of her sister's betrayal. The townsfolk shifted uncomfortably in their booths, trading knowing glances. Sarah's heart, once filled with hope, now felt like it was sinking, wrapped in chains of grief and confusion. Emily's actions left their family gatherings marred with tension, a tightening grip of silence at the dinner table. Both sisters wore their anguish into events, smiles plastered over their hearts like band-aids over deep wounds. It stung that the one person she trusted most had turned into a storm cloud above her dreams. But divine interventions sometimes come in unexpected forms. Enter Jack, a local veteran, grizzled and kind-hearted, who saw the light flickering within Sarah. He believed in her vision of a bakery that would recreate the warmth of home, the flavor of childhood. "You've got something special, Sarah," he insisted, his voice a mix of encouragement and conviction. He rallied the diner crew and patrons to host a bake sale, redeeming her dreams as they whipped up confections that carried the essence of family love. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let us continue. As Sarah began to rise from the ashes with her buttery pies and cakes kissed with a hint of cinnamon, Emily's guilt festered, her own insecurities morphing into venomous whispers. The tension thickened as they crossed paths at family events, frozen narratives written in unspoken words, eyes casting downward, hearts heavy as lead. Sarah learned of Emily's further betrayals, rumors roiling just beneath the surface. One fateful confrontation loomed ahead, a moment primed for both healing or devastation. Would they reconcile, or would betrayal extinguish a bond that once defined them? As Sarah stood on the precipice, backlit by the glow of hope flickering in her bakery dreams, the truth loomed heavy. What would come next? Only the winds of fate would tell. The baker's sun rose bright on the morning of the bake sale. Sarah stood in the kitchen, her heart pounding with excitement and nerves, as she arranged the last of her treats on display. The scent of vanilla and freshly baked pastries filled the air, a perfume of dreams coming to life. Her hands trembled slightly as she neatly decorated a layer cake with delicate swirls of cream, each stroke a testament to her determination. To the diner, the chatter grew louder, the clinking of the cash register providing a steady rhythm. Familiar faces filled the space, each one smiling and supportive, reminding her that she was not alone in this. Jack had rallied not just her coworkers but the entire community, igniting a spark of unity. They all believed in what Sarah was creating, and that alone fueled her spirit. But there was one glaring absence. Emily. Sarah's heart skipped a beat whenever she thought of her sister. The weight of their fractured relationship settled heavily on her chest. While the bake sale thrummed with energy, the uneasy silence between them felt like an imposing wall. The confrontation that would either heal or shatter them felt impending, just waiting for the right moment to strike. As the day continued, Sarah watched families share laughs, children giggling over sugar-coated treats, and elders recalling fond stories brought back by the aroma of baked goods. But amid the joy, Sarah felt a quiet thud in her heart. She noticed Emily out on the diner's patio, shadows dancing over her face, her smile forced and tight. With her sister so close, Sarah yearned for a chance to talk, to bare her soul. Finally, driven by a mix of courage and apprehension, Sarah walked over. She took a deep breath, letting the sweet scent of cinnamon bolster her resolve. "Emily," she said softly, trying to make her voice steady. Emily looked up, and the weight of their brewing confrontation hung in the air between them. "Can we talk?" Sarah continued, her words almost a whisper, sweet and tentative like the frosting on her cakes. But Emily's expression remained inscrutable. "What is there to say, Sarah?" she replied, her words dripping with regret and unshed tears. "You've all moved on. I just messed things up. It's not just you. We both played a part. But if we're going to move forward, we need to do it together," Sarah replied, her heart racing. A flicker of hope ignited within the chasm that had formed between them. Emily's eyes flicked away, shame washing over her like a cool breeze. "I never meant for things to go this far. I was scared, Sarah. Scared of losing you, scared of being in your shadow." Tension pulsed through the air, thick as frosting. Sarah's heart ached, flooded with empathy for her sister's vulnerabilities. "I miss you. I miss us. But what you did. It hurt so much." Emily's shoulders slumped. Tears brimmed in her eyes. "I was a coward." The emotional walls felt poised for a breakthrough. Just as the ground beneath them began to shift, the impatient hum of voices and the excitement outside swelled, trying to pull them apart into their curated lives. "Let us work through this together," Sarah urged, taking a cautious step closer. "But we have to be honest, even if it's painful." Just then, the bell at the diner's entrance jingled, catching both their attention. A figure stepped inside, a stranger with familiarity brushing against their hearts. The door swung shut behind him, the world outside fading into a hush. At that moment, Sarah felt a shift in energy, a current she couldn't ignore. She turned, intrigued, heart racing for an entirely different reason. A wild mix of hope and apprehension flooded her thoughts. Could this new arrival change everything once more? Or would it complicate the fragile truce being formed? The echoes of betrayal still lingered. But could this be the start of something new? Sarah's breath caught in her throat as she turned to face the newcomer. The diner's chatter dimmed for a brief moment, as if the world had paused to assess this unexpected arrival. The man who stepped through the door was tall, with a rugged charm that somehow felt both familiar and disconcerting. His hair was tousled just right, and those piercing blue eyes seemed to sweep over the room, landing on Sarah with an intensity that sent a shiver through her. "Jake?" The name slipped from her lips before she could stop it. Memories rushed back like the tide, crashing over her in waves. They had grown up together. A childhood filled with laughter and scraped knees. He had left town after college, chasing dreams, and now here he was, standing in the heart of her world on the most significant day of her life. "Hey, Sarah." His voice was warm, rich with the richness of nostalgia. It drew her in, coaxing a smile from deep within. Every hopeful thought she'd harbored about reconnecting with Emily dimmed under the spotlight of this reunion as Jake made his way over. Emily seemed to shrink into her chair, melting into the shadows of the patio. The air shifted and Sarah felt the tension dance between the sisters like a tightrope. She wanted to turn back, to face Emily and push for the words that had been stuck between them. But Jake's presence was magnetic. "Wow, you really made this place shine," he said, gesturing around at the colorful displays of pastries that seemed to sparkle under the diner's lights. "I always knew you had it in you. Thanks, it means a lot." The warmth of his praise wrapped around her, momentarily easing the heaviness on her heart. But as Sarah smiled, she felt a pang of guilt. This wasn't just about her anymore. She'd come seeking closure with Emily. "Jake, it's so good to see you," Sarah said, forcing the words out, her attention shifting nervously to look back at her sister. "What brings you back?" "We were at the diner when I heard about the bake sale. Thought I'd pop in, see how everyone's doing." He let out a relaxed laugh, and Sarah could almost see the weight of the last few years fall away from his shoulders. But she also saw the flicker of something unspoken between Jake and Emily, a tension that remained unexplored but heavy in the air. "Jake, this is my sister Emily." Sarah introduced, noting the strain in her voice as she did. The line they were walking was growing increasingly blurred by the stranger's presence. Emily forced a small smile, her eyes darting between them. "Hi," she mumbled, shriveling under the weight of old wounds both sisterly and new. Jake nodded, his blue eyes scanning Emily before returning to Sarah filled with that old fondness. "I'm glad you two are here together. You've got an amazing community surrounding you, Sarah. I've heard all about your baking skills." As he spoke, Sarah felt a fire ignite within her. The mix of pride from Jake's words and the potential shift in direction this moment could bring swirled around, fueling a new kind of hope. She spoke with passion about her pastries, her vision, and the support she felt. In the periphery, she caught a glimpse of Emily's face. A storm of emotions brewing there, shifting and turning like training wheels on a bike. Just as Sarah prepared to address the elephant in the room, her sister's betrayal Jack's voice erupted from inside the diner. "Hey everyone! Who's ready to kick off this bake sale?" The lingering heaviness lifted, and the room buzzed back to life. But that reminder of the bake sale of community ignited something new in Sarah's spirit. This was not just a day for her delights. This was a day for connection, for healing, for making choices. Taking a deep breath, she glanced at Emily. "Let us figure this out. We just need to keep talking." Then she looked back at Jake. A smile danced on her lips. "You should help us. Why not contribute your famous brownies?" Jake chuckled, and for a moment it felt like a fresh start. But beneath her smile, uncertainty churned. Would this newfound connection with Jake lead her away from her sister, or could it bring them all together? As laughter filled the diner and Sarah felt hope swell in her chest, a small voice whispered within her, was this the turning point she had needed? Or another twist in a tangled story yet to unfold? Would the past swallow them whole, or would they rise above together? The excitement in the diner surged as Jake agreed to help with the bake sale, his eyes sparkling with childhood memories and promise. Laughter bounced off the walls and Sarah felt buoyed, as if the burden she carried were momentarily lifted. But even amid the warmth of nostalgia, the crack in her heart felt wider. She caught a glimpse of Emily, a shadow lurking behind the cheerful facade, her expression a mixture of longing and regret. "Why don't we set up a baking station together?" Jake suggested, enthusiasm brimming in his voice. "I can show you how I make those brownies everyone loves." "Great idea," Sarah replied, her voice slightly too bright, a thin veil over the tightening knot in her stomach. She tried to push aside the guilt and tension that clung to her, but the weight persisted. As they gathered supplies, Sarah felt a brief moment of connection with Emily as they stood side by side, arranging the trays and mixing bowls. The air felt charged. It was an odd comfort, yet it also reminded her too much of the chasm that had formed since that fateful day last summer. She dared to glance at her sister. "So how have you been?" The words came out soft, almost a whisper. Emily looked up, surprise etched on her face, as if Sarah had spoken a foreign language. "I've been okay," she replied, her voice barely making it past her throat. But there was something in her gaze, an apology mixed with frustration. "I've missed you," Sarah said, the words unbidden. They hung in the air between them like an unsaid truth, echoing louder than Sarah had intended. Emily's eyes flickered with emotion, but she quickly looked away. "It's complicated," she started, hesitation lining her tone. The hesitation lingered. "Everything feels complicated." Sarah inhaled deeply, forcing herself to hold Emily's gaze. "But we can't let the past ruin today. I want to move forward, whatever that looks like." Jake interrupted, returning with chocolate, his infectious smile bringing light back to the moment. "Who's ready to make some goodies?" For a moment they were drawn back into laughter, mixing the batter and reminiscing about their childhood. Jake's presence kept the mood light, but each joke and smile felt like a patch on a torn fabric, unable to mend the real issue lying just beneath the surface. As they began pouring the mixture into pans, Jake caught Sarah's eye and winked, igniting a flicker of warmth within her. But the reality was that as much as Jake ignited a spark, it was also the kindling for her growing anxiety. Would this moment of joy with him only push her further away from Emily? The sound of laughter and chatter blurred into a happy hum, but Sarah's thoughts bounced between elation and dread. What if this day didn't lead to reconciliation? What if her bond with Jake tore the sisters even further apart? At that moment a loud crash pierced through the diner. Everyone turned their heads, sharp gasps echoed through the crowd. A stack of trays had spilled, sending pastries tumbling to the floor like a cascade of hopes dashed. "Emily!" someone exclaimed. It was a friend, but the cry cut through the happiness they had woven just moments before. "Are you okay?" Sarah rushed towards Emily as she bent to clean the mess, her face pale, but as Emily stood, her expression was a mix of anger and despair. "No, I'm not okay," she snapped, the raw frustration pouring out. Sarah stepped back, taken aback. "I've tried to be here, but you don't see me." The words hung heavy in the warm air. The laughter in the diner faded into an uncomfortable silence, leaving a raw air of confrontation lingering. Jake watched, his expression shifting from amusement to concern, unsure of how to navigate the sudden shift in mood. "Emily," Sarah stammered, wanting to bridge the gap but feeling lost. But just then, in the depth of the silence, a cold thought crept into Sarah's mind. What if this confrontation was just the beginning? What else had been left unsaid? The question loomed like a storm cloud above her head, threatening to unleash its fury on the fragile day of connection. With everything hanging in the balance, Sarah suddenly felt more uncertain than ever. How could she face what was next? Would this day change everything or shatter the tenuous peace she'd fought so hard to build? Sarah's heart raced as she stood frozen, grappling with Emily's piercing words. The diner, once filled with warmth and laughter, now felt like a cage where her fears trapped her. Around them, the chatter resumed cautiously, but the bond they once had hung by a slender thread. "Emily, please," she finally managed, her voice trembling. "This isn't how I wanted today to go. You just what?" Emily's voice sliced through the air. It held a force that surprised even Sarah. "Pretend everything's fine while you keep running away?" That stung sharp and quick. "Running away? I never meant to do that. I thought what? That if you brought back a little fun from the past, it would erase everything?" Emily's eyes were glassy now, but the fire remained. "You can't just cover this over with baked goods." Jake, caught between the sisters' storm, stepped forward. "Hey, maybe we can all just take a breath?" His smile faltered as he assessed the chasm widening between them. "We're supposed to be having fun here, right?" "Fun?" Emily threw her hands up. "What's fun about pretending?" Emily turned away, her shoulders tense. Sarah's chest tightened as she felt the distance grow, impossibly large, and she fought back the tears threatening to spill. "Emily, please just talk to me," she pleaded, stepping closer. "We haven't really talked since everything happened." Silence dropped like a weight. Everyone sensed it. The atmosphere thickened with anticipation. Finally, Emily turned back, her voice low and trembling. "You don't get it, do you? When you chose to step away, it felt like you picked everyone else over me. Like I didn't matter." "No." Sarah's voice cracked. "You do matter. You're my sister. Please just let me in." Jake hung back, feeling like an outsider to a battle that belonged solely to them. He glanced around, unsure how to help, how to fix what had become so unfixable in this moment of raw vulnerability. Emily's breath hitched. The vulnerability bubbled to the surface. "Do you even know how I felt after you left? I needed you, and instead you were gone?" The word slipped from Sarah's lips, a painful admission. "I know. I'm so sorry. I thought I was doing the right thing." Emily's expression softened, if only just a little. "You were my rock, Sarah. But it felt like you built a wall where there used to be a bridge." Just then, the clatter of an overturned chair brought them back to the moment. A friend of their mother's, lingering at the edge of the diner, had dropped her purse. The laughter from another table faded again, the air thick with expectation. Sarah's heart raced. This moment, this honesty, felt like a fracture line that could either heal or break everything apart. "I want to fix this, I really do," Sarah said, her voice steadying. "What do I need to do?" Emily's gaze met hers, confusion and clarity blending into something hopeful and fragile. "I don't know if it's something you can fix alone." An uncomfortable silence fell again. The laughter and chatter had muted, and the hopeful atmosphere was replaced with an undercurrent of tension. Each sister stood on the brink of a decision that would shape their future. Jake stepped forward again, sensing the weight of the moment. "Whatever it takes, you can figure it out together. Just don't let fear keep you apart." Sarah felt the urge to cling to that hope desperately, but uncertainty loomed like a heavy cloud. Could she truly begin to mend the pieces of their broken relationship? What if the next word she said could either heal everything or pull them further apart? As her mind flickered with possibilities, she realized that, more than anything, she needed to understand what lay behind her sister's pain. With that thought wrestling in her heart, she whispered, "Emily, can we just start by being honest? What do you really need?" And just like that, the silence shattered with promise and the weight of the unknown. Would honesty unveil what they couldn't face, or would it reveal deeper fractures? The question hung palpably in the air, poised to change everything. Emily's breath caught in her throat. For a moment she looked stunned, as if Sarah had just thrown a lifeline into turbulent waters. The weight of her sister's question hung in the air like an unlit candle, waiting for a spark. I don't know how to start," she admitted, her voice quieter now. "Maybe that's the problem. I've built up all these walls and I'm scared to break them down." Sarah felt a rush of empathy. She could almost see the walls Emily was talking about, towering and unyielding, built from hurt and disappointment. "You don't have to do it alone," she said softly, stepping closer. "I'm right here. We can figure this out together." Around them the diner buzzed like it always did. Plates clattered, coffee brewed, laughter erupted. But in that small bubble they created, time seemed to slow. A glance exchanged between them carried the weight of years gone by, of shared childhood memories, and the deep echoes of laughter now stifled by misunderstanding. "What if it's too late?" Emily's words trembled, punctuated by the hint of tears brimming in her eyes. "What if I can't trust you again?" The sharp truth of her statement struck Sarah like ice water. "Wait, trust? You think I don't care?" Each word felt like a puzzle piece falling into place, revealing a clearer picture of their fracture. "I never meant for my absence to hurt you. I thought I was, I don't know, protecting myself." Emily's gaze flicked to the floor, an emotional labyrinth behind those eyes. "But in doing that, you left me behind. I felt like an afterthought." The vulnerability in Emily's admission struck a chord deep within Sarah. The guilt shifted, warmed by understanding. "I didn't want to be a burden." I thought. She hesitated, swallowing the words, but they spilled out before she could stop them. "I thought you'd be better off without me." Emily's expression shifted. "You really thought that? After everything we've been through?" Her voice rose slightly, frustration surfacing. "You've always been stronger than me. I just assumed you'd manage. I needed you to be there." The accusation stung, but Sarah understood it. It was the pent-up frustration of feeling abandoned, of wanting but not being able to reach out. "I was afraid, Emily. Afraid of hurting you more, of opening wounds that might never heal." Suddenly, the clatter of dishes brought their moment crashing back down to the reality of the diner, loud and busy around them. Sarah felt the weight of hundreds of eyes on them, soaking in their rawness. Jake cleared his throat, his voice low but steady. "What if this isn't about fixing everything right now? What if it's just about taking that first step together?" He looked between the two sisters, a hint of encouragement in his presence. "I want to try," Sarah said quietly. "I want to understand. Whatever it takes, Emily. I'm here for you." Emily's shoulders sagged, tension releasing visibly. "Can you promise not to disappear again? That this time you'll fight for us?" "I promise," Sarah breathed, the word feeling like a balm for both of them. As they stood in that diner, an invisible shift occurred, the gap between them closing ever so slightly. But the road ahead still swirled with uncertainty. The silence that followed was no longer heavy. It was just the space where they could begin anew. But Sarah could sense an uncharted future still loomed ahead, tangled with questions and hopes. "Will we really get through this?" Emily finally asked, her gaze searching for certainty. The challenge of that question pierced through the moment. Though Sarah felt the flicker of hope igniting within her, doubt whispered on the edges of her mind. But as she met her sister's eyes, she knew they were finally on the same page. As the din of the diner buzzed around them, an unsettling question flickered in Sarah's mind. Was this a tentative beginning, or simply a momentary truce before the real confrontation? There was still so much left unspoken, and she realized that their truth wasn't just about healing. It was about what they would have to confront next. And for Sarah, the uncertainty loomed just ahead. Would they truly face what lay buried? Or would it all come crashing down again under the weight of unspoken secrets? Emily's fingers fiddled with the edge of her napkin, her heart racing. The promise floated between them like a fragile bubble poised to burst. "What do we even talk about first?" she asked, her voice almost a whisper. Let us just be honest, Sarah suggested. About everything. Start from the beginning if we need to. The weight of years settled heavily on Emily's shoulders. She felt a tugging deep inside. A mix of longing and fear spiraling through her. I'm not sure I can remember the beginning, it feels so far away. That's okay, Sarah replied, her tone laced with warmth. We can take it slow. Just share what's there. I can handle it. Emily looked out the window at the golden glow of the setting sun, the light spilling out like blessings over the passing cars. It's funny, she mused, I always believed you'd come back when I needed you, but you never did. The admission hung in the air, and Sarah inhaled sharply. Each word felt like a punch to the gut, reminding her of the chasm created by years of silence. I didn't want to burden you, she said, trying to explain. I thought distancing myself would keep you safe. I thought I was doing the right thing. But that wasn't what I needed. Emily almost shouted, frustration pouring out in a rush. I needed you to stand by me, not vanish. How could you think it was better to just disappear? A flicker of pain crossed Sarah's face. I was scared. I kept thinking I'd find a way to fix it. But each day was just harder. I didn't want you to see me fail. Failing doesn't mean disappearing, Sarah. Emily erupted. The din of the diner faded into a muted hum, as they became a world unto themselves. It made me feel like I was the one that didn't matter. Like our bond was just an illusion. Emily, please, Sarah leaned forward, her eyes pleading. You matter to me more than anything. I need you to know that even when I was gone, you were always in my heart. I just didn't know how to come back. A glimmer of understanding flickered in Emily's eyes, but uncertainty still loomed. And now? How do we stop this from happening again? I think it starts with this, Sarah said softly. With talking, with sharing what we really feel. We can't hide anymore. Emily searched her sister's face, hoping to find the comfort that had always been a part of their bond. What about Mom and Dad? They've always seen us as this perfect pair. How do we tell them the truth? Maybe we don't tell them everything right away, Sarah suggested. Let us work through it first. We've done it alone long enough. Now we have each other. A small smile crept onto Emily's lips, the tension easing. So we just take it one step at a time? Exactly, Sarah nodded, her heart swelling with newfound hope. But even as the words left her lips, a nagging thought crept into Sarah's mind. What if the truth was more than they were ready to face? What if the walls needed more than simple honesty to bring them down? As the evening settled around them, the shadows in the diner grew long, and Emily's smile dimmed, replaced by the weight of unsaid words. They both knew that the deeper questions were still lurking, waiting for the right moment to emerge. Will this really be enough? Emily asked suddenly, her voice breaking the fragile peace. The answer lingered in the air between them, heavy with unspokens. Would they find the strength to overcome the burdens of their past? Or would it simply spiral into a new cycle of silence? Only time would tell. Emily took a deep breath as she stared at the remnants of her milkshake, the glass now half empty. The sweetness that once delighted her tasted distant, overshadowed by the heaviness of the conversation that hung like a dark cloud. She felt the tension in her chest tighten as she turned her gaze back to Sarah. What if we just made things worse by talking? She asked, her voice shaky, barely above a whisper. What if it only complicates everything even more? Sarah reached across the table, taking Emily's hand in hers. The warmth of the contact was almost grounding. I get that fear. I really do. But what if it helps? What if it brings us closer? What if we find a way to fix everything together? Emily's mind raced. She could feel hope flickering, but it battled fiercely with doubt. What if they don't understand? What if they only see us as their perfect little girls? Then we show them we're not. Sarah's response was firm. We're real. We've struggled and we've survived. Emily lifted her eyes, catching a glimpse of determination in Sarah's expression. There was a fire in her sister that Emily hadn't noticed in years. It sparked something within her too, and for the first time she thought maybe, just maybe, they could find a path out of the shadows together. Let us just start small, Emily suggested, biting her lip. Maybe we could tell them about you coming back. How you were scared. Those years apart don't have to define us. With a small smile, Sarah squeezed Emily's hand tighter. Yeah, just taking one step at a time. But as they spoke, a part of Emily felt restless. The reality of their family wasn't just a tale of disappointment. It was woven deeply with love, expectation, and loss. She felt the truth curling in her chest like a caged bird, desperate to be free. If we say that, there's still so much they don't know. About how I felt when you weren't there. About everything. A nervous tremor settled in the corner of Sarah's lip. I know. But we can't rush it. Let us make a plan, okay? We can find a way to take it all in. As they continued talking, the initial warmth began to crack through the cold layers of their past. They talked about memories, shared laughter over silly childhood antics, and even touched on the darker moments that had spread despair within their family. Each word chipped away at the walls, revealing holes that sunlight could begin to seep through. But as Emily began to feel lighter, an unexpected shadow cast itself over the moment. What if Mom finds out I didn't say anything before? What if she's angry? Fear flashed across Sarah's face, and Emily realized she was not alone in that uncertainty. Maybe it doesn't matter if they get angry at first, Emily said, her voice trembling but resolute. What matters is that we're standing together this time. We choose to fight for our bond. In that moment of solidarity, Emily felt a weight lift ever so slightly. Yet as she gazed into Sarah's eyes, tinged with fear but alight with hope, another thought struck her hard. And what if the truth tears us apart again? What if it shatters everything we have rebuilt here? The question hung heavy and stagnant, the diner's lingering chatter fading into a blur. They both knew they needed to confront not just the choices of the past, but the uncertain terrain of the future. I guess we'll never know until we try, Sarah said softly, her gaze dropping to their intertwined fingers. With a nod they sat in silence, minds racing with what lay ahead. Nothing had been decided. The promise of tomorrow felt fragile. Would the truth be their savior or doom? Could unveiling their deepest secrets bring healing or devastation? The evening stretched before them like a long, winding road. And as they weighed their options, a new realization crept in. What if the real challenge lay not in confronting their parents, but in reaching the depths of their own fears? Only time would tell. The next few days felt tense for Emily. Each morning, she woke with a knot in her stomach, anxiety bubbling to the surface. The conversation with Sarah kept replaying in her mind, a loop of both comfort and dread. It was the quiet moments that sank in the deepest. The potential fallout from sharing their truths was always there, lingering like a shadow that refused to leave. One evening, as she sat at the kitchen table, Emily noticed her mother bustling around, preparing dinner with her usual efficiency. It was a scene she had seen countless times, filled with the familiar sounds of pots clanging and the aroma of spices wafting through the air. Yet tonight it felt different, heavier somehow. "Are you all right, honey?" her mother asked, glancing over her shoulder, the concern evident in her eyes. "You've been quieter than normal." Emily opened her mouth, but the words wouldn't come. How could she possibly explain the turmoil churning within her? Instead, she managed a small nod and returned to picking at her half-eaten plate. Sarah joined them shortly after, her presence radiating a mix of subtle energy and unresolved tension. But she wore a mask of cheerfulness, chatting about her day with a lightness meant to disguise the weight of their plans. "Did you finish that book?" Emily asked, trying to steer the conversation towards familiar waters. "Not yet, but I found this really cool part," Sarah replied, her eyes sparkling for a moment, but as she spoke, Emily caught a fleeting look of apprehension on her sister's face. In that very instant, Emily realized they were both caught in a web of unspoken words, and the thought made her heart race. Later, after dinner, their parents cleared the table, and Emily felt the urgency building inside her. They couldn't delay this any longer. There was a time for talking around the issues, but the moment had arrived to confront them directly. "Mom, Dad," she began tentatively, feeling the weight of those words press down on her chest. "There's something Sarah and I need to talk about." The room fell silent. Every movement froze as their parents turned to face her, expressions shifting from confusion to concern. The air felt thick, electric even, ready to spark at any second. "What's on your mind?" her father asked, his eyes narrowing with curiosity. Emily quickly glanced over at Sarah, drawing strength from her sister's presence beside her. They were in this together. "It's about us. Our past. Things we've been through. We need you to understand." Before she could continue, Sarah chimed in, her voice steady but shaky. We don't want to hide anymore. We've been keeping secrets and it's time. We want to be honest with you. It's important. But just as the atmosphere began to shift, Emily caught a flicker of struggle in her mother's eyes. There was a hint of fear behind that carefully maintained facade, like the storm before a downpour. Please just listen, Emily urged, panic rising yet tempered by a wave of courage. What if this was the pivotal moment they would either break apart or emerge stronger than before? Emily took a deep breath. She needed her voice to break through the uncertainty. In that charged atmosphere, she spoke again, her heart a drum in her chest, ready to unveil the layers of truth they had both prepared but feared to reveal. And just as she opened her mouth, intending to share everything, the doorbell rang, cutting through the tension like a knife. As her parents exchanged puzzled looks and her heart dropped, Emily knew that the moment she had been dreading yet longing for was about to slip away, just out of reach. What could possibly disrupt her family's critical conversation? Would the interruption buy them time or throw their world into further chaos? With a shared glance of uncertainty, Emily and Sarah braced themselves for whatever or whoever would come through that door. As the door swung open, the bright sun spilled inside, illuminating the kitchen and momentarily blinding everyone. A woman stood there, dazzling, with confident strides and an infectious energy that filled the space. It was their cousin Kate, back from the city with stories, laughter, and a whirlwind of excitement that swept through the house like a fresh breeze. Surprise! She beamed, an armful of groceries clutched tightly to her chest. I figured you could use some extra help with dinner. The tension in the room ruptured into sweet relief, laughter bubbling from their parents as they embraced her, their attention veering from Emily and Sarah's monumental moment. Sarah's heart sank, feeling their chance for honesty slip away like grains of sand. Sorry to barge in. Kate laughed, blissfully unaware of the weighty conversation interrupted. But I thought my favorite girls could use a bit of sunshine. Emily exchanged a glance with Sarah, the urgency of the moment pressing heavily upon them. Every beat pulsed loud in her ears. The calm, cheerful ambience felt like stark contrast to the turmoil inside her heart. Could they really lay bare their truths amid this newfound joy? As Kate warmed the kitchen with her infectious spirit, Emily felt torn. She wanted to open her heart, but could they ground this conversation with reality while surrounded by swirling excitement? Actually, we were just, Sarah began, but Emily squeezed her sister's hand tight under the table, coaxing her to stay quiet. This wasn't the right time, not with Kate here. Let us cook together, Kate declared, sweetening their world with her relentless enthusiasm. We'll whip up something delicious. How about a big pasta feast? The idea of simmering sauce felt safe and comforting, but Emily felt the urgency of their unspoken words coil tighter, refusing to release her. What was meant to be a moment of vulnerability felt more elusive by the minute. That flicker of fear drummed in her veins, still hinting at the storm brewing just behind her closed lips. As they began chopping vegetables, Emily stumbled through casual small talk, all while buried under the weight of what hadn't been said. Hey, remember when we made that giant pizza in our backyard in the summer? Kate pulled Sarah and Emily into a giggle fest, and for a moment, they felt their hearts lift, bundled in nostalgia. But as the laughter echoed and the clinks of dishes filled the air, Emily realized they were escaping reality. There would always be delicious distractions, but the clock still ticked down to their confrontation, and she craved the chance to share their truth. Kate? Emily said finally, gathering her courage. Can we take a minute? Sure. What's up? It's about Sarah and me, we need to talk. Emily braced herself, heart racing. This time the moment felt definitive. No more avoiding. No more distractions. The laughter faded, the warmth of the kitchen hanging heavy as Kate's expression shifted from smile to curiosity. "Okay, I'm listening." Emily nodded at Sarah, whose face mirrored her turmoil. In that shared silence they felt an unspoken reassurance. They wouldn't face this storm alone. They would stand shoulder to shoulder. Emily drew in a deep breath, letting its warmth fill her soul. Their parents stepped back, expressions shifting as they sensed a shift in mood. The moment was nestled in anticipation, roots so deeply tangled. "Mom, Dad," Emily initiated, steadying her voice. "Sarah and I have been dealing with some things for a while now, and we haven't been honest with you about everything." The silence thrummed, charged with the gravity of her words. Everyone held their breath, uncertainty spiraling in the air that seemed to thicken by the second. Sarah added her voice, voice filled with determination. It's about our relationship and the struggles we've been through. We need you to hear us. Really hear us. Their parents' expression shifted to concern. But in that moment, Emily felt the spark of hope ignite beneath her skin. Yes, barriers had stood between them, but now they were beginning to dissolve. It was a long road ahead, but they were ready to embrace it. They would no longer hide behind smiles or sweet treats. As the first real emotions spilled from their hearts, laughter mingled with tears, and though the future felt uncertain, for the first time in a long time hope flickered alive. With her sister by her side, Emily wore her heart as armor, and as they took their first step into vulnerability, a profound realization filled the air. They would navigate this together, facing whatever came hand in hand. This wasn't just about secrets anymore. It was about love, growth, and the powerful bond that needed to be nurtured. As she felt the warmth of that promise, Emily knew this was just the beginning of a healing journey, one where they would reclaim their bond, embracing every challenge and every triumph in the name of sisterhood. As the evening unfolded, a sense of peace settled over the household. The kitchen was once again a space of laughter and connection, rich with the scent of home-cooked love. The past still loomed, but over it hung a new promise of resilience. And for the first time, Emily felt herself smile, a genuine smile fueled by hope. Now the true journey could begin. Before I go, I have a favor to ask. Please subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss out on the next exclusive stories that are coming your way. Leave a like now. Your support fuels this journey and helps us reach more people. Tell me how you felt about the ending. Comment your thoughts and reactions below. I want to hear from you. And please share this video instantly with at least 5 friends who need to see this incredible transformation. This is the moment to show your support, so don't wait not even one more second. Your actions make a difference, and only true fans understand the importance of standing together through this journey. Thank you.